Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the IPA's 100th birthday party. My name is Tom Knox, and I have the great good fortune to be the IPA president for this anniversary celebration. And my agenda for the last 2 years has been about reasserting advertising's positive contribution to the economic, social and cultural life of the nation. And this festival, and tonight in particular, are all about celebrating our past and looking to the future. It's tremendous to see so many of you here tonight, and especially our game changers who are honoured in the exhibition behind me on the screen and throughout the evening and on the AdFest website. These are the individuals who have made such a difference to our industry over the last 100 years. Now, it will not have escaped your notice that they are predominantly white and male, which is a reflection of the reality of the past. Now, the IPA is committed to playing its part in making sure that the game changers of the next 100 years will fully reflect the diversity of our country. And on International Women's Day, it's only appropriate that I restate the IPA goals across the industry of having 40% of senior positions filled by women and 15% of the workforce coming from BAME communities by 2020, goals that we have devised through our new, now annual diversity survey. So I think it might be appropriate to just put our hands together for those game changers and salute their achievements. I also hope you had a brief chance to explore and experience the exhibition, which has been specifically designed to inform and inspire the more than 1,000 local school kids and young people who are booked on group tours to come and see it over the next 4 days. And I also hope you'll be amongst the over 2,500 people who are attending the events that make up the festival. We're delighted to be putting on an eclectic and exciting selection of speakers and topics for you. We've got speakers from Sir Alan Parker to Adam Buxton, from Fiona Bruce to Vanessa Feltz, from Hamza Ashad to Sir Martin Sorrell. Not names you often hear put together. So as I said, we want to inspire the next generation of talent, and as part of that, we ran a competition for advertising students to create a commercial for the festival. And I'm very pleased to be able to share with you the winning film. The team that wrote it is here tonight: Scarlett Chetwin, Shona Turnbull and Oliver Servini from Kingston University. Thanks also to Watchable and Smoke and Mirrors for bringing it to life. So just have a quick look at the festival commercial.
Tink follows talk.
I'm a secret lemonade drinker. Always.
Kicks him a good one in the old crown jewels.
Bang! Little fat orange Buddha comes running in. Gives a big smack on the chops.
The atmosphere that's created at the beginning, and then going crazy.
Boom, 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 boom,
Boom, boom, boom, boom, boom.
Large moustache.
Walter in Majorca don't taste like what it oughta.
Takes off his jeans.
It's hot in here.
Pushing your Ovis up the hill is hard.
Accrington Stanley, who are they?
Exactly. But going down was fun.
So like, and he's got these tiny little hot pants on.
Ooh, yeah.
I'd also like to take this opportunity to say thank you to our main sponsors, Google and Channel 4, without whom this event would not have been possible. We were delighted to have the support of two of our most progressive media owners and advertisers who also appreciate how channels can work together in the new media landscape. So thank you very much to them. Also thank you to the production team at Studio 60 Billion, who have worked incredibly hard to make this all happen. And in particular, I'd like to call out our fantastic exhibition curator, Sam Hayward, who in a very short space of time has become a world expert on the history of British advertising, and with a very tight time frame and a tight budget has created, I think, a truly immersive, engaging and quirky exhibition. So thank you very much, Sam. Big thanks also to those individuals, agencies and companies who supported us along the way, including the chapter creatives who I know are here tonight, Jenny Green and Paul Ray, who under the pretty senior creative direction of Jeremy Sinclair pulled together the print advertising campaign for the exhibition. Thank you very much to them. Thank you to the Mill for putting together the birthday film you saw just before I came up, and also to Outdoor Plus, Clear Channel and Campaign for donating media space. Thank you to Diageo for putting on this bar and the drinks. You may have, well, you actually can't really see it, but the entire room is an homage to surfers, apparently. This is what these white waves are about. We'd also like to thank Wave Music for the DJs, and particularly all our wonderful friends who should be coming up behind me, who have financially supported us. You can see their logos on the screen, and throughout the evening, we really do appreciate your support. It's great to see so many of you here tonight. And last but by no means least, thank you very much to the IPA team. This is one of the biggest events the IPA has ever put on in its history, and as always, I think they've done the member agencies proud. Now, before we hear from Lord Puttnam, our keynote speaker, I'd like to introduce for some words from our two sponsors. First up, Ronan Harris, the MD of Google in the UK. Thank you, Ronan.
Thank you. I have to say, I do feel like somewhat of an imposter being here tonight and at this celebration of 100 years of the British advertising industry. I have just arrived into the UK in the last couple of months, but it was a huge personal pleasure for me just a few moments ago to sit with a good and close friend of mine, Lord Puttnam, in the recreation of the Trattoria Terrazza inside, and hear the stories of how he, together with his friends, created so much of the industry which I call mine, and which we all work and live in today. I want to congratulate the IPA on an amazing 100th birthday. The Institute, the advertising industry, have such an inspiring history here in the UK. It's made a massive contribution to the UK economically, socially, and also in terms of the creative industries. And there's no doubt that the next 100 years will be equally exciting. I think the contribution has come not just through creativity, but also through innovation, through understanding and harnessing the new ideas that come about. And as we go through uncertain times over the next few years, there's no question but that the role of the IPA and spotting those trends, being able to harness those innovations and create those new opportunities will be ever more important. And I think a critical part of that as well will be developing and creating the new skills amongst the population to be able to go out and capture that. Today, it's over 60 billion of lost opportunity because of the skills gap in the UK, and I think the role that we all play and that the IPA will play in closing that will be hugely important. Google, of course, is best known as a search engine. I like to think of us as a growth engine for the businesses that we work with, but a growth engine for ideas and also for the ad industry. So although we're, as a company, relatively a newcomer to this industry as well, we look forward to playing an ever more important and profound role in the development of it over the next, hopefully, 100 years. So tonight's all about celebrating the IPA and the culture and the innovation and the creativity. And I'd like to congratulate you all for what's been achieved. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ronan. Next up is a man who certainly wouldn't consider himself, I don't think, an imposter. So David Abraham, who I had the great privilege of working with at Shark Day. He has also founded St Luke's and is currently the Chief Executive of Channel 4. David.
Thanks very much, Tom. Thank you very much for inviting us to sponsor this brilliant event, public engagement between the ad industry and the whole of the UK to celebrate the centenary of the IPA. I think there were kind of three reasons why I was always a supporter of this idea. Firstly, my own nostalgia for the early part of my career. My first brand I ever worked on was Shake 'n Vac, I remember, I think my first job was to do a sort of cut down of that famous ad to get it into 20 seconds. That's what they wanted to do. I worked on Bisto, and then when I went to CDP, I worked on Shredded Wheat on the Bet You Can't Eat 3 campaign, and obviously later on, St. Luke's famous for chucking out your chintz, and those wonderful adverts with Eric Cantona spouting strange philosophy on a train to Paris. So of course we couldn't give up the chance to be part of this wonderful exhibition. Second reason was obviously Channel 4, that I've had the great privilege of running for the last 7 years, has always been, I think, a great partner in innovation with the ad industry. We've been involved in many creative firsts with creative agencies in particular, and I think we pride ourselves on attempting to do new things and breaking new boundaries, and frankly helping creative agencies in particular to win brilliant awards for their clients on mold-breaking work. And the history of Channel 4 is inextricably bound up with the ad industry in that way. And thirdly, and no least importantly, Channel 4 is in itself a brand, and it's in a privileged position to be marketing creatively its own brand through the wonderful leadership of Dan Brooke, who runs all of our marketing and runs For Creative. And I think if you look at the kind of pedigree and the history of what Channel 4 has been able to achieve, through admittedly a privileged position of spending money on its own advertising, we've set the bar pretty damn high creatively, and we're hugely proud to have been included in, for the Superhumans campaign, to have been included in, I think, one of the sort of 10 top ads of the last 100 years. So we're terrifically proud of that, and we're very excited about the creative work that we have got planned coming up in 2017. So it's really great to be here, and a wonderful sort of link. I'm a sandwich between you, Tom, and our next speaker, a man who was actually at CDP some time before I was, has been an inspiration to me throughout my career, and was also partly responsible for giving me my job at Channel 4, because he was the deputy chairman at the time. Please give it up for... You're doing that? Please give it up for Lord Tom Knox.
I always knew I'd be a noble. This was impeccably rehearsed. Yes, it now gives me great pleasure to introduce Lord David Puttnam, who, as you all know, spent the first decade of his career in advertising, especially at CDP in its pomp. And avid watchers of Mad Men will also know that he was the eminent screeze behind Puttnam, Powell and Lowe. Apparently Frank Lowe was pissed off that his name was lost, which merged in 1962 with Sterling Cooper. David went on to become a successful producer, of course, in Hollywood, films like Bugsy Malone, Midnight Express, Killing Fields, and in 1982 he won the Oscar for the Best Picture with Chariots of Fire. And yes, that year PwC did get it right. He really did win Best Picture Oscar. And it's particularly appropriate that David is talking to us tonight, because not only because of his long-standing connections and love of the advertising industry, the support of the advertising industry, but also his long-standing commitment and engagement with education, which, as I've said, is really a big part of what we're trying to do here. And also all of the understanding that his work through being in the House of Lords has given him of understanding advertising's broader role within society as a whole. So we're very, very pleased and grateful that we have David with us. So please welcome Lord David Puttnam.
Thank you very, very much indeed. I've never ever been introduced twice before. It's, careful, I might get used to it. Thank you for that actually very warm reception. I'm going to try and cover a lot of ground in a very short amount of time. So try to imagine yourself a messenger, just turned 17, racing out the office at 5:30, 3 evenings of every week, to get to one or other evening classes at a variety of locations in central London. And then sitting there until 9 o'clock before catching an empty tube home to the further reaches of North London. And almost 60 years later, find yourself addressing this glittering gathering of Adland's finest at the centenary celebrations of the cause of all that earlier pain. Now, if you get your head around that, you'll begin to understand the somewhat out-of-body experience I'm having right now. It's been quite a journey for the Institute and for me. But of the two of us, I suggest that the Institute is showing rather less signs of wear or tear. If anything, in most important respects, the Institute itself feels younger than it did when I first rather nervously signed the register at 44 Belgrave Square. Now, with a very welcome and newly minted Royal Charter at its back, a record-breaking 1,200 people sitting for its foundation certificate, its highly regarded, very highly regarded effectiveness awards, and its much admired equality and diversity programme, this is no fuddy-duddy trade organisation that's merely falling back on its laurels. In fact, it would be interesting to know exactly what the founder members of the Association of British Advertising Agents had in mind when they first met in 1917. I think it's fair to say that today's attendance and this week's festival would have been well beyond their wildest dreams, but God bless them for having had the vision. I really loved my dozen legitimate years as an ad man. They not only forged many of the key relationships that have marked my life, but in an important sense they framed my whole way of addressing problems, to such an extent that I've been essentially an unreconstructed marketing man in every other field of activity in which I've ever subsequently engaged. And that's a pretty powerful legacy to take away from your first job. For the past 25 years, both the Institute and I have been engaged in a parallel activity of establishing the economic and cultural importance of what we now all refer to as the creative industries. That's why it was so satisfying when the government, in publishing its 5 economic pillars for post-Brexit growth, included our own industry amongst them. And of course, within those pillars, it was recognised that by both financial and employment measures, advertising was the standout contributor. Now, you know the figures better than I do, but the industry supports 550,000 jobs, and last year ad spend increased to £21 billion. As my mum used to say, that ain't chopped liver. It's also the case that in most respects, once you remove the public sector organisations such as the BBC, much of the rest of the creative industry sector is effectively underpinned by advertising. As I see it, that's both a source of great satisfaction and an enormous responsibility, and that's a big subject, but for another time. A few years ago, I found myself in a panel with Larry Summers, the former US Secretary of the Treasury, who articulated something that last year became frighteningly evident. He said, "Change takes far longer than you expect, but when it does occur, it happens faster than you ever believed possible." Now for me, the most alarming change to have occurred is the seeming collapse of trust. Trust in institutions of all kinds, including government, trust in the media, and pretty well all other sources of information. Most alarmingly, trust in what's referred to as the system. Now, as I see it, every one of us has a colossal job in our hands in the process of recreating trust. Not in the system, which in many ways has only discredited itself, but in some kind of system which we feel comfortable to gather around and to support. Because building trust is a human activity and is very unlikely to be achieved solely through the use of analytics and algorithms. Simply looked at from the fairly narrow perspective of advertising, our role is all about building trust. Trust in brands, trust in our message, trust in each other. I checked carefully, and you will never find a reference to the role of the IPA, or for that matter any of the other organisations representing ad agencies and their clients, that doesn't refer to the fundamental challenge of building trust. It's the sine qua non of the whole profession. Yet, as you flip, as I did last month, through the most recent Edelman Trust Barometer, it's very hard to find much encouraging news. So as the IPA moves into its second century, I'd suggest that no more urgent task lies ahead than the process of rebuilding trust. All of us, in our different ways, need to start walking the talk. There can be no more evasions or excuses. We have to dig very deep and uncynically analyse what's gone so badly wrong, and then throw this sector's undoubted muscle into finding what I'd describe as a new and rather more sustainable social settlement. Let me just offer 2 examples of that. Last night's vote in the House of Lords wasn't really about Brexit per se. It was actually about a large group of peers in the Lords saying to the government, we simply don't trust you. We do not trust you to deliver what you're saying in a way that we believe will be acceptable to the majority of people in this country. That's a very, very powerful statement. Another small example, one of the great achievements of the advertising industry has been the Advertising Standards Association. I was very lucky, just pure luck, in chairing the committee that deregulated the ASA. It was a very sensible and very good decision in 2003. Only one group of people refused to be regulated by the ASA. Does anyone know who it is? Politicians. How do you begin to rebuild trust when the one sector that we need to trust the most doesn't see itself as regulatable? That was why the 350 million a week poster could not be challenged. This is, in my judgment, madness. Let me finish, if I may, on a slightly less challenging note. Today's budget, this afternoon, offered a renewed and welcome emphasis on training. Improvements in the training of young people and some encouraging and way overdue initiatives and funding for in-work training and retraining. They could, of course, have come to Belgrave Square and checked out what the Institute's been quietly and effectively doing for years in this area. But then our industry are very strongly talent-based and therefore particularly aware of the constant need to refresh our creative lifeline. To say that Brexit hasn't much helped in that respect is to state the obvious. But we're going to need to be at the very top of our game if we're to avoid being pummeled by the consequences of what, certainly in my view, has been a massive national misjudgment. David Abraham, M.T. Rainey, and I, among others, were asked a few years ago to identify which weaknesses might inhibit the growth of the UK's creative industries. And between us, we suggested that the key problem lay not so much in creativity itself, but in the management of creativity. And the government agreed. So we set about designing a purpose-built, fully accredited EMBA at Ashridge Management College. The first cohort of 24 students are now completing their initial year. And I suggest that if we're going to hurdle the challenges posed by Brexit, this is exactly the way in which we should work together in creating centres of excellence that address all of our future needs. After all, the creative industries themselves have never been more mobile. Alan Parker, Ridley Scott, and our generation didn't start out with the intention of switching jobs. No more did Tom Ford start designing clothes in order to direct movies. We must find the means to identify real talent, offer it the right management support, and then let those careers develop as they will. If we succeed in that, we will all unquestionably benefit. So what the founders of this institute started, they left for the rest of us to imaginatively develop. And as far as I can see, as I look around for the rest of it, we're in very, very good hands. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much, David. That was fantastic. And that concludes, you'll be relieved to know, the formal part of the evening. Please carry on drinking, enjoy it. I hope very much you'll be able to come to the rest of the festival events over the next 4 days and maybe bring yourselves and young people to the exhibition over the next 4 days. Thank you very much for coming.